I think
but the law is there.
I think the Attorney General is just patronizing. He has he's qualified,
eminently qualified. I agree.
You know, but just take it that the Dr. Donny Okupe said that what this thing is a vote catching machine. It's a special purpose vehicle. So the politicians have defined the political parties as special purpose vehicles to power. So they don't invest in political party building. And it has a history. And the history is when in 1999, President Obasanjo ambushed the political party structure of the ruling party then and appropriated it to himself and made himself leader of the political party, converting party meetings to the villa, summoning everybody. The governors took cue and became leaders of the party in their states, and their wives became leaders of the women. And so the growth of political party administration and structure was stultified. It needs to be understood from that point. And so those who took over from the president then never made any change to allow for first career in the political party. You can't make a career in there are people who work in the Republican Party. That's their life. They don't do they work in the, but here there is no such, you can't make a career because funding of the political party is also from the state. The state funds the party. In spite of everything that you see, you can take a history of the political parties. When Alhaji Tahiru Bafarawa was in DPP was strong, very strong. DPP was immediately he left the party, DPP died. When the former governor of Ondo State was in Labour Party, as at that time, Mimiko, Labour Party became, so it is state funding the party and not, so the party should be instructing those in government. But because of the transactional relationship that exists between the parties and their officials in government, the respect, the capacity to control is no longer there. So that does not take away the issue of ideology that you mentioned. But then what is ideology? Because many times we also make a fetish of ideology, as if people say we have to be corrupt, it can be the ideology. Yes, it can be, share the money. We can share. It can be the ideology. So because we give a feeling that lack of ideology means that we don't know their position on housing. We don't know. Go and check their manifesto. They have positions on all these issues. But it goes beyond that. How do they see this thing? In 2022, people left, presidential candidates left a party. 4 months later, became a presidential candidate of another political party. We all clapped. So we didn't find anything wrong with that. We felt okay. So we want to go to the National Assembly where the legislator, the one who makes the law, cannot make a law that encumbers him. Okay, he knows that he can leave the party anytime. He only inserted a clause there that if there is crisis. So what do you mean by crisis? You just go to the party meeting, slap somebody. There is crisis in the party, and then you leave. So is the tragedy of the conversation about fluidity of movements in the political party is because those who make the law themselves benefit from that scenario.
But again, it should also be noted, like you have rightly observed, that there is a constitutional provision for defection, and there is a clause. You lose your seat if there is no your party is not involved in any crisis, and you move. But if your party is in one crisis or the other, irrespective of how the crisis started or what is the scale, so there is that provision in the Constitution, and I think it was effected. It was in Rivers State. in Rivers State, that was called.
The conversation is still ongoing.
No, it's in the court. It's in the court. But that's why I said the AG understands this. The layman's interpretation is simple. If there is crisis, so is there crisis? Who determines? And Victor now talked about it. Who determines what is crisis? So you sit down, cause the crisis in whatever way you define it, and then
crisis enough.
Such bogus terms, so
the challenge is impunity. We have sworn to impunity, and if we are going to make any changes, the first most important thing, and three of us agree on that, there's a triumvirate agreement on that, is that the political class. But we can give them some credit too, because some of the shifts that we have seen in terms of legal regime too is as a result of the actions of the politicians, because those of them in the legislature, who came under a lot of pressure from civil society and the media to make some of those shifts. So we need to continue. The demand side needs to be stronger, needs to push much harder, so that people can be statesmanly, in lawmaking and all of that, so that they don't hold to their side all the time. They can begin to think more of making laws that create level playing ground for everybody, because at the end of the day, even when you make law that you think you benefit from, it can work against you.
Faith.